Hello everyone, Jennifer here. I hope you recognize me from the training program. I'm about to walk you through how to fill out the goal tracker for the Managing Client Expectations training program. This will be a little bit long to go through, and of course I would have introduced it during the training program, but I'm making this video as a supplement in case you missed that session or you need some additional help around this. So I'm showing you the template of this goal tracker. It might look a little bit different depending on how we customize it for your goals or your team's goals. How am I going to show you this goal tracker? Well, I'm going to break it up into a few sections. I'm going to talk about the info tab first, and then I'm going to briefly talk about consultative, meeting management, and professional that you see on the bottom. Then I'm going to use that base to talk about the 3 desired outcomes. And then I'm going to come back into the consultative, meeting management, and professional to actually show you how to rank yourself. You would have noticed I missed mentioning the CEFR tab. That's actually in another video on its own, so I'll link that up here. So let's start with the info tab. This is pretty self-explanatory. The 2 things I want to call out is just ensure that you write your manager's name and email ID on here, because you're the one who's starting this this document. So it's your responsibility to do that. Also, you might notice the title of the document, the document title here. I want you to save it with your first name, so you'll change it. It's the template will actually say name MCE goal tracker. So I want you to change it to your name. So this is step number 1 in getting into the mind of your clients, stakeholders, colleagues, whatever. Make things easy for them to find in their system. Sometimes keeping the same document title makes sense, but sometimes it doesn't. In this case, at least for me, it makes more sense if you actually add your name into the document title, so I can search for it a lot easier. So that's the info tab, not much else to discuss here. And like I said, we're going to just use consultative, meeting management, and professional just to give you a baseline to this, and what to do in top 3 desired outcomes. And then we're going to come back to actually show you how to use the rating scale and rate yourself. So this one is filled out only as an example. There's nobody named Renjith with these scores, I promise you. It's just an example. And then meeting management and professional are empty. So you can see that each of these tabs actually has more than 1 learning marker. There's 4 for consultative, 4 for meeting management, and 3 for professional. And like I said, once we tailor it to you or your team, each of these tabs may have, maybe 1 less or 1 more, depending on what we are trying to achieve, or the wordings of those learning markers might change also. And as you go through it, if you want to adapt it and edit it to your situation by noting in your own KPIs, please do that. I mean, that's what we're here to help you achieve, that to show progress in your own work. So as you got a basic context to what this looks like, and knowing that there are 11 learning markers, you might be wondering, how can we achieve 11? Well, our program will last between 4 and 6 months. Initially, when you sit down on your own and or with your manager and you do all the rankings, which I'll show you about how to do in a minute, I want you to also prioritize all of the learning markers and select your top 3. That's really important. And you and your manager could have two different lists or slightly different lists, and that's completely fine. In fact, I welcome that. Because that shows that each of you have actually taken the time to really think about this and consider it. I don't like it when the manager does it first and then the employee comes in and just repeats what the manager has written. When that happens, I will want to speak with that individual and the manager to see where the alignment actually is happening or not, for example. Because it's very rare that 2 people actually have the same exact rankings for every single thing in this form. We all are different, so we all have different opinions, and it's completely fine to showcase this here. So when we talk about our top 3 learning markers, what we're trying to achieve here is a few things. One is, of course, prioritizing out of all of those learning markers, which is most important to you and your manager. And number 2 is trying to come up with a tangible outcome that you can see, something you can do regarding that particular learning marker. So for instance, let's say you chose get in the mind of clients as learning marker number 1 for your top 3 desired outcomes. What could be a tangible outcome that you could actually see yourself doing in a day-to-day basis in your job? That's what you would articulate here. So it could be as simple as, I will start making small talk with my clients in meetings and in emails. So let's say we are now at the midpoint and you realize that you feel like you have achieved that learning marker, or at least you've achieved that behavior. You have started making small talk. You now understand your client a little bit better, but you think, well, there's still more I can do to get into the mind of my client. So what is that? Maybe you might identify, I need to ask more questions about my client's business, or I need to ask more questions about the end user, their customer, my client's customer, or my client's client, so I can provide a better software solution to them. So then you can just update what you're trying to achieve under that learning marker. But then some people might want to remove that learning marker altogether and maybe only have 2 for the rest of the program, or maybe add another new one in there. That either way to go is fine with me. So now that we've talked about the top 3 desired outcomes, let's go back to these tabs. Now, this one is obviously empty. This is empty, but this has information in it. So I'm going to leave my face over the mid-program and end of program, because actually we don't need to look at that when you're starting out the program. When you start out the program, the only place I want you to put your, you and your manager to put your scores is under start of program only. You're not putting in predictive scores for later. Those scores will be added in as we go through the program and get to that section of the program. So you and your manager will go through this and identify the ranks. And how are you identifying the ranks? Well, let me show you through this tab. It's going to take me a second just to kind of adjust the screen here so that we can see this properly. Okay, so you might be able to see it now, the rating scale here. So let me actually just see if I can get this to be a little bit bigger, so you can see this. Now I can move the screen over one more time. Let's see if this works. Okay, now you can see the rating scale perfectly. It looks a little bigger now. So you can either do a 1 through 5 scale, or you can do the percentage scale, 10% to 100%. 10% is obviously the lowest. Rarely does anyone put 10%, but occasionally some people do, and that's completely fine. That just shows a humbling area for you that you need more work there. And then all the way up to 100% or 5, where you're extremely confident in that area. It's very rare that everyone's at 100%. There will be areas where there will be 100%. But not for all of them. So this is really important to kind of go through and you self-analyze yourself and put your score there, and then your manager will kind of do the same thing. So once you do that, obviously you'll come back and you'll put your scores in here. And let me move over to a different screen. Yes, here we go. Okay. I always fear that when I change it over, I don't get the right orientation. So like I said, for the startup program, you're only filling in that score. And then when we get to the midpoint, like let's say that's June, then you actually will go in and fill out only for June. And then when we get to the end of program, you'll fill out only for the end of program. End of program is a little different for each group. Some have the actual end of program at the last session, the actual last session of the training program. Some end up doing an online graduation ceremony like 6 weeks later. So we also have a retrospective, because as we get to the end of the program, you still need time to try to implement all the things we discussed, because there's a lot of different things. So that 6 weeks in between gives you and your team time to try out the concepts from the last couple sessions and kind of get some feedback on all that. So then that's when you would actually put in your scores for that last day, either the last session or the graduation day. And if we do a graduation, or even if we don't, yes, we can give certificates, and we welcome that. So the other thing you might be wondering here is, why are some of these green colored and why are some of these peach or orange colored? And do we really need to decrease? So green obviously just calls out a little quicker, easier for the eye. Again, getting into the eye and mind of your clients and who's looking at your documents. Trying to color code things makes it really a much quicker way for that person to read things or call things out on the page. So wherever it's highlighted as green, it means that that particular learning marker has increased. So it's really easy to see that. So some will increase, some will stay the same, because it's hard to actually focus on everything. Obviously, there's so many things to focus on. And yes, some decrease. And I was actually surprised the first time I got some decreased scores. And you might be wondering, does that mean that the program's not working? Or are people dropping out? They're not attending the program, or they're not doing the homework or pre-work. Well, guess what? They're doing everything they need to do. So even I was surprised about this. So I would sit down with the managers and also the participants together and try to discuss this. And we found out the reason why in some cases the score drops, there's two reasons. One is, as we go through the program, they learn some new things that they never knew before. And so when they went back to analyze their score, they're like, based on this new information, I realized that I don't know this area as well as I thought I did. And I really want to actually focus more on that because of this. So I'm going to decrease my score. So following that same line of thought or that same logic, they would then want to go in and practice more on that particular skill. So these are some of the reasons why the scores drop. And in no case where a score dropped was it because people were not engaged in the program or they were not making progress at all. Because you can see that even though there are some red decreased scores, that overall, I mean, there's also increased scores, and there's things that are staying the same. Now, I hadn't done the color coding for all of the 3 tabs, but generally wherever there's a tab that has some decreased scores, the other tabs have a lot more increased scores and no decreased scores, or maybe each tab has one decreased score and all the rest are increased, something like that. So we really do try to take time to look into why the scores have changed as well. That's why this program is so intensive. It's not just the group coaching, but it's also one-on-one coaching. This helps with leadership, team building, project management, time management, and I'm getting on the screen, and of course communication skills. So it helps with almost every aspect of the job. Even though it's not technical necessarily, it helps with that, because you need to be able to communicate with your stakeholders, clients, and customers on a day-to-day basis, and all of this helps kind of tie that together. So I hope this tutorial was helpful. I know it was super long, but I think I was able to capture everything I needed in here. If you have any questions, you can definitely reach out to me in between sessions or during the session itself. When we talk about the goal tracker, you can ask me questions, no problem at all. If you need a one-on-one session, we can see if we need to do that. Or if you're not part of this program and you have watched this tutorial and you thought, oh, I want this for my software development team, definitely can get in touch with me. I specialize in working with software development teams in India, professionals in the software industry who happen to work in India but work with US clients, colleagues, or stakeholders. So helping that whole process really improve your business outcomes. And we also do that through ensuring that you're not only building the business acumen of your team, but the cross-cultural competency as well. So we do tie that in to the whole program. So you can get in touch with me through Jennifer at authenticjourneys.info, or my US phone number, which I can talk on and receive text messages, +1 385 218 0947. And my India phone number, which is only on WhatsApp most of the time, but +91 95 393 47529. Thanks so much for your interest, and I hope to be in touch. Thanks. Bye.